I'm really excited on all the stuff that we have to share today. Today, as Susan said, is really focused on educators. We will have a student-specific session next week, and I think they're going to post that link in the chat box if you guys need it. It's also out on our website under our upcoming events you can go look at. But the reason behind this is when we talk to educators across the country, one of the most common questions that we get is, what can I do to help make sure my students earn their certification? So the goal today is to help hopefully answer that question, providing 6 specific things that you can do that can help your students on this journey. Now, first, we wanted to be sure that you had some additional information around NHA's dedication to you as an educator. You can't do this by yourself, so we're here to stick with you through this process. And that starts with complementary resources for you as educators. NHA has and will continue to provide you outlines and guides around all of our test plans and learning tools that review best practices on implementation. These are available through our website and also include breakouts of the modules, spreadsheets of the test plans, best practices for implementation. One of the things we're going to use today is this timeline from one of those best practices. We created it to become a checklist for us today to help with those 6 steps working towards certification for your students. Some other things, this year we are initiating a new method to help bring you the right content at the right time. And this starts with reminders to both you and your students, including helpful walkthroughs and videos as you move through your courses. This helps students to know what to expect with check-ins, next step emails once they register with NHA. The notifications are designed to help both you and your students as you progress through this journey. To make this more effective, you will be receiving a request to complete an instructor course form. This is new. This will give us at NHA more information as to your program rhythm, what you need, and how you intend to instruct your students. Please fill this out when you get it. Not only will this give us the ability to help you when you need it, but those who do fill it out will be put into a raffle with a chance to win. And Susan, please correct me if I'm wrong, a fairly large gift card is about, I believe, a $500 gift card. So look for an email from NHA soon and fill that out. NHA has been and will continue to host these webinars. Right now, we're going through this specific kind of back to school series, and the registration link for the rest of those is out on our website. Coming soon, you will see that we are working on updating that website for both you and your students. The information that is being provided will continue to rotate and update and change based off of where you and they are in this timeline. We'll provide new links, blogs, articles related to each phase of this process. For your students, those will depend on where they are in their lessons, with steps to apply for their exam, inspirational testimonials to help with test anxiety, or even earning their certification. We'll show prominent information on continuing education, printing their credential, and steps to renew when it's time. Again, that instructor course form we'll be sending you is a key element for us to know what you need and when you'll need it. So please be sure to fill that out and get in the running for that gift card. Our next promise is to continue to move the industry forward. We take pride in doing what is right and are not afraid to use our voice as the largest frontline healthcare worker certification company in the industry to drive positive change. So this includes recent updates we made to our billing and coding certification, aligning it to industry needs and providing an in-depth assessment for both billing and coding for your students. The new exam launching at the end of this month will include a wide range of activities covering the application of coding, plus an understanding of the complete revenue cycle, a critical component to understanding all of the financial transactions in a medical office. We have recently published our annual industry journal, Access, available on the website as well as by hard copy. This includes industry data employer expectations, information collected from across the country, articles related to healthcare. This year's celebrates the heroes from this past year, as well as really great articles on military programs and a wonderful one on women in healthcare. If you missed the notification, NHA was excited to announce that we have recently partnered with the American Council on Education to approve the application of ACE credits for successfully completing some of NHA certification exams. We are in process for more, including some of those additional learning resources. We recently hosted several webinars on all these different topics. So again, if you want more information, all of those are posted in our resource center on the website. Finally, we will continue to develop resources for you to use in the classroom. Recently, this has been a career success kit that partners with the purchase of that essential soft skills learning tool, Personability, providing tools to your students on resume writing, cover letters, interviewing. And this past year, we also launched the medical terminology and A&P learning resources to help provide the right content to students in these entry-level roles. We know that these are core elements of their learning, and those students who score higher on these pieces of their certification test tend to score higher on the test in general. So we were able to trim this down and make it fun, believe it or not, interactive, to help with these difficult topics. And we will continue this. There's new content coming. We're going to be looking at updates to our medical assisting exam. And we're actually looking to launch some resources around that product. So keep an eye out on our website. We are here with you every step of the way. So before we dive too deep into today's session, I did want to launch just a quick poll. That was a lot of information. So you should see out on your screen if you would like any additional information on any of these resources, because that was really fast. Please go ahead and mark that. You should see a poll up on the website. So we'll be able to capture this and we'll just open it up for a few minutes here, seconds, sorry. We'll make sure someone follows up with you on whatever it is that you would like to learn more about. So we'll just leave this open for another 30 seconds or so, just to keep it there. We have, let's see, about a third of you answered. So we'll just give it maybe 30 more seconds and then we'll close that up and move into the actual content for today. Take just a second, seems to slow down. All right, we'll go ahead and end that now. Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Now we're gonna go ahead and move into today. We know that the building blocks of your student success include you as their instructors. You are the vital piece of this process. Your involvement, your encouragement can really shape their ability to achieve this goal of earning their industry certification. As we go through the steps, we'll be reviewing how and when you address these processes can really make all the difference. So the first thing that you can do to help your students have a successful exam experience is for you to start planning early. I know, best laid plans, right? But here's that timeline we'll be using today. We're going to be building onto it for our steps. And we know that getting a head start is always a good idea. With that in mind, prior to the start of your term, check to be sure everything is ready to go. If you're providing the NHA exam prep materials to your students, check your inventory in your account to make sure that you have all the materials loaded. And if not, connect with your NHA representative to finalize or approve additional content. When everything is set up, this is the right time to create your NHA course. Take some time to review any additional materials that we have around this process, how-to documents, video guides that walk you through this administrative step. Remember to fill out that instructor course form so that we can actually bring these to you when you need them. If you need or want any refresher training on best practices for materials, or if you're using a new resource this year, this is the right time to get something scheduled through your certification specialist with one of our client experience partners. My team, I'm privileged to be a part of. So let's see what these steps really look like in real time. To start, you'll need to log in, right, to your administrative account at nhanow.com. If you don't have a login or don't know if you have one, please fill out the contact me form from our website. I think we might be able to get that posted in the chat box. You can also put your information in the Q&A today, and we'll be sure someone can connect with you. Once you've logged in, select the inventory option on the left side of your page, and this will let you confirm what you already have in your institution account. This is what has not yet been provided to students. If what you see here isn't sufficient for your cohort, that's when you'd want to follow your proper school steps and connect with your NHA contact to get more added. This is best to do before school begins and definitely before you add students to any course, so you can be sure everything is all set to go. To create a course to implement the NHA exam materials, you just select the courses feature in your account. Before creating a new course, now is the time to archive any old or finished courses from the previous term. To do this, you open the existing course details and choose Archive Course at the top. This will not revoke access from those candidates who studied in the previous term, but will turn off the ability to add a new candidate to that course to help prevent confusion and keep your reporting clean. Okay, now that that's done, select your new course feature from that same space in Courses, and then you'll be able to fill out all the information you need for your course, selecting the materials you want to provide access to and setting the appropriate boundaries for implementation. The other part of preparing ahead, as I said, is making sure you are ready to implement any necessary steps. This may include reviewing additional learning tools and resources, including how-to documents and walkthroughs, videos on this entire journey. Look over the candidate-facing videos to see what it will look like from their perspective. And if you still would like some additional training, or if you're, again, rolling out a new product, then connect with your representative and you'll get an email similar to this from somebody from my team. We will follow up with you and get you scheduled as soon as we can. Now that you're ready to go, the next step is to get your students ready by getting them set up with their personal NHA candidate accounts. So we're going to ask another quick question here, just out of curiosity. I want to know, and I'm going to put this up on the screen here, when do you currently have your students first create their account logins? Is it right before you plan to have them use their certification materials as soon as they begin their course or program, whenever they want to? When do you get that established? We're going to leave this open for just a minute. I'm just curious to see kind of what the general statement is there. And I'll make sure you guys can see this one when we're all done. So we're going to leave it open for what, another maybe 10 seconds. We'll close it up. All right, looks like it's slowing down. Last chance. And great. Okay, so it looks like, if you guys can see this, as soon as they begin their course or program that aligns is kind of the most common, but we do have some people that do it kind of right before, right at that kind of peak place. So thank you, everybody. It was really interesting. I appreciate that. What we're going to look at is what we would really suggest you do. So based off of the data that NHA has been able to collect across the last several years, our research shows that not only are students who start their journey with NHA earlier more confident in their readiness, but also have a higher likelihood to take the NHA exam at the end. We see that those students who are given this kind of confidence have a higher probability of also passing the test in their first attempt. So have your students create that NHA account as early in the program as is realistic. Even if you're not yet starting their exam preparation resources, they can already begin to familiarize themselves with the platform, tools, and resources available to them. Now, in the CTE space specifically, so today's presentation is really geared towards those in the CTE space due to school firewalls and VPNs. The best practice for this, it's recommended, is to walk your students through creating those candidate accounts themselves. This ensures that they can follow some of the best practices for their logins. Due to those potential firewall blockers with institution emails, We really recommend that their login be an email address they will check frequently and not just while they're enrolled in school, but one that they will have after the program is done. Think, where would they like their password reset email to go? Or what email address will you have on your resume? This is a great time to begin the conversation with them on digital professionalism. Maybe even setting up a professional online presence with an email and a LinkedIn account would be a start, including that login to the NHA website. They should also take note of the password. You cannot reset your password during an exam, so they want to make sure they know all of those details for their logins. The other best practice is to confirm that their names on their candidate accounts are their legal names, whatever is on their government issued photo ID. This is what will be used on exam day to verify their identity. And if the account name doesn't match, they may not be able to test. So if you invite your students to create their own accounts early in the semester, or even if you invite them using a school email, have them update it before they graduate, right? But prior to accessing course content, there's an invitation feature directly on your NHA account. If you choose to set them up through your course roster, which would then provide them some of that inventory we checked already, you can do this early in their program, which will help establish that growth mindset that they can do this and can promote a higher dedication to the belief that they have the ability and will be able to see this through. In fact, a survey of over 6,000 recent NHA exam candidates stated that they wished they had studied with that exam prep earlier and more frequently than they did prior to sitting for the exam. This speaks to their level of confidence in the exam format and content, which leads up to step 3, implementing the NHA exam preparation resources into your program. We highly recommend providing these resources as early as you can and actively incorporate them as much as possible to help with student engagement. This step has 3 main components: the study guide and quizzes, practice tests and review resources, and using detailed reports. So some background on NHA's materials and best practices is that over the last decade, we've been able to award over 1 million certifications across the country. We use the data and content from that process to help you with best practices on implementation. We evaluate candidate behavior in preparation compared to outcomes on their certification exams and can provide some pretty strong analytics to assist you with implementation. We have seen that students who use this material following best practices when studying along with their program course content have a much higher possibility of passing the exam in their first attempt. So no matter what certification or learning resource you're working with, we have dedicated complimentary educator implementation guides to help provide you that data we've collected on best practices. These guides will outline for you the content, implementation suggestions, even the average time it should take for your student to navigate through the materials. Here are just some examples from our 8 different certifications. It does vary quite a bit depending on the content, but we also will outline a per chapter or per module resource with that guide to help you set expectations for your students. So moving through step 3, we highly recommend providing access to the NHA materials as early as you can, aligning your students' learning to the NHA exam test plan. And this begins with the online study guide and quizzes that you can embed into your academic program. Use the module quizzes to evaluate candidate readiness. Since these follow the test outline, each quiz can provide clarity to how your students are mastering the topics as they learn them. This also gives your students insight into the NHA process, how we word questions and answers, and can already begin to instill that confidence in their ability. Engagement in learning is not a new idea to NHA, nor education in general. Involving several different techniques and practices in your program can really help not only with involvement, but a higher feeling of satisfaction in the learning process. All of these specific items have been identified by a really great article last year from Inside Higher Ed as specific strategies that, when used, promote those feelings of confidence and satisfaction. With just a little bit of creativity in your program development, our prep materials can accomplish almost every single one of the items on this list. So let's take a quick look at what those study guides and quizzes really look like. So all of these materials are designed directly around the test plan of that core exam. Depending on the type, it can look a little bit different, but the resources include audio books, quizzes, personal checkpoints. All assessments or questions provide rationales or feedback to students to understand more about how NHA words questions and the normatives behind the answers. Different certifications may provide case studies, games, flashcards, professionalism videos, or even EMR challenges. You have complimentary access to view all of the materials you're providing your students through a preview feature from your NHA course details, where you can select any module or quiz to go in and review. The quizzes tied to each section are designed to look and feel just like the exam, but are focused in just one core area. So as I mentioned, these questions won't just tell students if they get the question right or wrong, but also provide reasons behind it. Why was it right? Designed to help with familiarity and address test anxiety. Now, they do have unlimited attempts at these quizzes, but we don't recommend that they really take them over and over again just to get a high score. Instead, take them and then use that information to define their study path as they move forward before going into the next module. So the next portion of step 3 are the practice tests and resources. The material package includes practice tests that follow the full test plan, are designed to look and feel just like that exam, which is why using it too soon in the learning cycle may not really be in the best interest of your students. So unlike the quizzes, these have a limit on the attempts and they follow the full test plan. So if you haven't done the learning yet, you sort of lose some of that content. But the practice tests also come with personalized reporting and personalized study tool called the focused review. So when we monitor student behaviors with practice tests, these really should be used after the study guide has been completed. We've seen that the first practice exam, if possible, should be as close to a real exam experience as you can. Some of our NHA materials automatically do this, but you can also set this manually if you choose. So after that first test, use the reporting and data to help define your remediation plan for your students and move through the next couple of practice tests, leveraging that unique focused review tool provided to your students tied to each attempt for further study, along, of course, with additional course content. The fourth exam, again, if you could do that in a real exam environment, if possible, or as close to, this not only provides your students with a real world experience of the actual exam, but helps to develop their skills related to test taking and test anxiety, which I personally suffer from. We've seen that students who have at least 2 practice tests in this kind of real exam experience have a higher probability of success on exam day. The practice tests follow that full test plan. They are taken through several different test versions. There's a total maximum of 6 test attempts across 3 different version types, A, B, and C, or in some others, there's a beginning and a final. So each program kind of runs a little bit differently. But every single practice test receives detailed reports that gives you information on your students, on your cohort. They're automatically scored. You have those question rationales available to turn off or on. So you have the power to do that on your own. And then, of course, also that focused review comes afterwards. So along with every practice assessment or quiz attempt, students receive a personalized score showing outcomes in each main area. We're not going to tell you exactly what question was missed, but instead what competencies to work on. This is to be sure they go back and study on areas that need work rather than just memorize questions. And after that practice test, they can immediately launch the review, which helps them to study what they may still need help in. They can come back to this at any time. We recommend they do spend time in this before that next practice test. This is a different study tool specific to that one attempt and that one student. It is filterable, it is printable if they want to highlight things. We don't want them to shy away from reviewing those mistakes. We know the best way to improve your score is challenging yourself to work on information you haven't mastered yet. And this is designed to help with that process. Okay, so that was, again, a lot of information. We do want to make sure that we kind of keep up on our time, but I'm going to launch another question here. I was just curious, what do you think the pass rate is across the country for students who follow NHA's best practices using the online prep materials? So what do you think? What do you think it is? Leave that open for just a second. See, all right, so we've got a large group of people here who participated. Let's go ahead and see. So it looks like the most of you are thinking it's 87%. Thank you. Nobody said 58. I really appreciate that. But let's see, the actual answer here is 87%. So when we look, and this is just data from 2018 until present, and that's about, it's over 400,000 candidates who've tested during that time. If they follow best practices, that's an 87% chance of success. Much of implementation through the learning process includes understanding the reports, the analytics available through this content. So from the first moment the first student accesses your study materials, detailed reports begin to load around time spent, quizzes completed, practice tests. Students receive their own reporting as well. They can select it. They can go and look at each individual module if they want. That gives them information around what they did, when they did it, what their scores were. The practice exams work the same way, giving them detailed information on the score, on the overview of the main areas. Scrolling down, you'll be able to see all the topics missed, that at least one question was missed from that practice test attempt. You get all of these reports as well as an interactive tool for many of our resources called the P360 Vitals. This is found in the Learning Insight Center. This tells you what materials your students are using. How are they doing in this material? Who needs help? Where do they need help? Students also get their own personal progress tracker for those resources that provides an interactive reporting tool that goes over, what have I completed so far? What should I do next based off of NHA's recommendations? How am I doing in my study? And what content areas am I struggling in? With direct links to the study guide and the focused review. Now remember, there are how-to resources for all of this. Just to give you an example of how doable I truly believe this is a snapshot of a school I have personally worked with previously, representing 3 different academic semesters. So the first semester was when the school was using NHA as an exam, but they did not provide the prep materials. This had been their normal pass rate for a while. So they reached out and started to provide prep, but they did not implement it into their program, best practices, etc. And well, that next semester, roughly the same pass rate. Then we worked very hard on going over the content, embedding it into the materials, seeing what they could do to help engage with their students. And that third semester, that exact same school reached a 92% pass rate for their students. This is doable, right? It is completely within the scope, but we know also those who followed best practices within this cohort passed at a 100% pass rate for this group. So pretty profound story, right? Implementation and involvement can really help student outcomes for their certification exams. So to help with this, step 4 is ensuring that you have checked everything off for the exam itself. Timelines for reminders, exam dates, when to ensure your candidates are ready. We've recently created a checklist for you to help with this, and we're going to go through these pieces together. So we'll take the major players on the checklist one at a time, starting somewhere near when you implement those practice tests. We know every program is a different rhythm and cadence, and that's okay. But we're going to start roughly around 30 days prior to your exam date. We'd recommend you begin using this process around then. Around then, 45, 2 months, 30 days, somewhere in that space is when, if you're testing at your campus, we suggest you schedule your exam date through the NHA site. And if you're using prepaid exam codes for your students, ensure that you connect with your representative at NHA to know what those codes are, that they are set up and everything is ready to go. This is also the right time to ensure that any student who may qualify for testing with an accommodation through a recommended form like IEP or 504, for example, submit that request form for exam day. They need to have this completed prior to testing. Proctors cannot extend times on an exam. They also need to have their application done in order for that to be reviewed. So to ensure everything is ready for exam day, this is when we would suggest that students kind of start to submit those applications. Either way, all applications must be completed prior to the application deadline, which is 1 week prior to test day. You can monitor these through your administrative login in the portal. And in fact, we recommend that you keep an eye on them to ensure that everybody has gotten, all the way through. In that roughly 2-week window prior to the exam, students should be submitting or have already completed those exam applications, which you need to be monitoring through your login to make sure there are no surprises on your roster. Check in on any of those candidates with additional accommodation requests. They might need a secondary exam date or additional documentation to submit. This should happen as soon as possible. Confirm the testing center and proctor are ready to go if they need additional assistance to be prepared or for the test to run. Remember, you can't proctor your own students, so you want to be sure someone is set up who can. For any off-site tests, this is the time when you want to be sure that they're scheduled and have all the resources that they need for that testing method. The final week prior to the test is when we would suggest you implement that last practice test, providing students a real exam experience, solidifying that confidence. You may receive an email to approve the exam roster. For any students testing off-site, you might not get that notification, but you should be monitoring all of those rosters anyway, confirming in that applications link that everybody is set to go. This is when you should provide any final reminders to your students, including anyone with an accommodation. Re-review the test plan, exam location, date, time, suggestions to plan ahead for parking and traffic. This is also when you should have your students check their logins and passwords. They will probably be on a different device than they've been studying on, and it won't have their saved logins, and you can't reset passwords during an exam. So this is the right time to remind them to ensure that they have that login set up, even update that email address now if it needs to be done. And then finally, it's exam day, where hopefully if all of this has been done, your students will become NHA certified. So the readiness checklist covers the idea of monitoring applications, but step 5 is understanding how, right? One of the most common and most frustrating scenarios is when on test day, emotions are high, anxiety may be high, and something goes wrong that could have been avoided. So let's take a quick look about how to go about all this process. So when scheduling your exams, always check your test dates first, which you can do through the upcoming exams button in your portal. This is where you can see any upcoming exams in the next 30 to 90 days. In this example, you can see exams that are open. If your test date isn't listed here, then you know you won't be duplicating anything to add one. The exam status is important. As you can see, any exam dates that are open for registration. And the application deadline. This is the last day students can apply for the exam, 1 week prior to the test date. It's important that your students are on the roster before this date. NHA will automatically finalize the exam roster 3 business days prior to the test date. So knowing it and ensuring your students are registered beforehand is really key to a smooth exam experience. So I mentioned we're going to be updating the platform here soon. This is an example of what your new login may feel like. Very exciting. As you can see, all of the information should still be on the left-hand side. To prevent any surprises on your exam roster, you can monitor your students through the applications feature. Here you can see both off-site and on-site applications, exam statuses, even completion dates based off of whatever filter you might have set. You can download this into an Excel spreadsheet for easier filtering and editing. The week before the test, remember our checklist, when you may receive notification of the exam roster to approve. Please follow up with any internal processes to make sure you know who should be approving exam rosters. Not everybody should have that privilege. Rostering is a little different for testing offsite, but the steps to review applications are the same. You want to go to your roster, you want to receive the notification, confirm those who are eligible to test. You will select your test date and approve or reject students. You can see those who are testing through NHA's third-party agency or tied to any on-site dates. Make sure that you do this as soon as possible prior to 3 business days before the exam. Opening that exam, and you can select the students over on the left that will activate the option to approve or reject them. It's important to be sure to do this again as soon as you can, so it's before that 3 business day window. Take note that the default setting for on-site testing will be those in pending approval status. So if you don't see your student here, double check your filter in the upper right-hand corner. The default for off-site exams is all students. So to see just those waiting approval, update your filter. Okay, so we've been through a lot of information. I know we're coming up on time. We do want to make sure we have time for Q&A. I'm going to just host one more quick question for anybody at this point who might still want to have someone to access about any of the steps we've covered. Where do you still have questions or would like more information? We want to make sure we get that to you when you need it. So everybody should be able to see that poll. Please, if you could go ahead and answer. We'll be able to get anything out to you as soon as possible. We've been recording today, so you will also be receiving the recording from today's session. This is also really important, again, when you get that form to fill out, that course form, please do so we can make sure we get you the information you need when you need it, right? Leave this open for just another couple of seconds. All right, perfect. Got about half of you in there, so we'll go ahead and close that up. We want to make sure we respect everybody's time. So thank you. It looks like there's definitely still some questions out there. So we will be getting to you guys as soon as we can with additional information, even setting up training if you like. So thank you again so much for that. Couple more things. We haven't gone through all of our list yet. So the final step is to be sure you know where to go for all of your resources. And this starts with understanding the exam test plan. So the test plan is the blueprint, the outline of the exam itself. We highly recommend you provide this to your students, but also use it as a checklist for readiness. It's important to know how your students will be scored in the high stakes test. So we want to make sure that you understand how that scoring works. All of NHA's test plans are on the website, ready for anyone to review. These are tied to specific certifications. So once an exam is released after it's been developed, so our billing and coding will be coming up soon, we then review those answers and we help to evaluate our scoring. But if we turn back to that test plan outline, every candidate who tests follows the exact same blueprint. It's what everything is based off of. So the scored items on the exam outline, it's a series of competencies and tasks that are on the test itself. So though every student who challenges this test follows the same test plan, they might not all get the same questions. To score individuals fairly across a variety of possible questions, we evaluate those answers based off of a couple different layers. Difficulty level, right? How hard is the question? How often in your role will we be asked to do this thing? How important is it you get it right the first time? These are just some of the layers that are psychometrically evaluated, there's a great word, to help set this score. And that score will range from 200 to 500. So a 500 would be a perfect score. No matter what test version you receive, you can possibly reach 500 points no matter who you are. The minimum passing score is 390 or higher. So if you have a student who earns a 389, for example, that doesn't mean that they missed it by just one question, but that they didn't make that minimum cut score. So for today, I also want to make sure we discuss provisional certifications, which may apply directly to your program. So provisional certifications, all the information you need is in the candidate handbook. This is your source for all of the requirements, expectations, guidelines around the materials. Basically, anyone who does not have their high school diploma or GED prior to testing would receive a provisional certification. NHA does not have an age requirement for testing, though many employers might. But for almost all of our candidates, those who are within 1 year of earning their high school diploma or GED are allowed to test for the exam. This is not applicable for the pharmacy technician exam. Board of Pharmacy requires they must be within 60 days of graduation. So pay attention. Any candidates who might be juniors, right, for the rest of those certifications. They will want to test as close to the end of the year as possible in order to not time out on that credential. Provisional certifications will get them a 1-year non-renewable certification. And within that year, they have to confirm with NHA that they've met that educational requirement. And then they will level up to the remaining time from their test date to earn the full 2-year certification. So as a reminder, we want you to be able to address your questions when they happen. So we've talked about our how-to resources, but we also have our client care team. These are our additional customer service, if you will, that do extended hours, though not 24-hour. And they are incredible people. So please reach out to them if you have an urgent need. And then also you have your certification specialist who, if you have additional training required, we can always set up additional training with one of us. But your certification specialist is there to help you with your program needs. But if you have an urgent need, contact our client care team through that live chat or through our 800 number. Bonus tip, encouragement. As you and your students work through your educational timeline, your involvement in their process through encouragement, consistent encouragement is vital. So for so many of your students, this is the first time they've done anything of this magnitude, and they cannot fully believe that they can accomplish it. As I mentioned earlier, setting benchmarks may be helpful for progression, but we have seen that certain benchmarks may often discourage students from testing. Milestones set too early in the program or too high through the semester may not be realistic for every candidate. Our goal is that any student in your class has the potential to reach their goal, earn their industry credential, and become NHA certified. And a lot of that is truly tied to confidence, and that can be directly tied to you. Now, your students aren't the only one working hard, right? I want to take a minute, make sure you all know how thankful we are for you. I mean, you work so hard doing everything you're doing, especially the last couple of years. This has been a crazy time. So whether your students say anything, they see it, they know it. And we all know that you truly are the heroes here. Every day, putting yourselves out there, working insane hours for your students. So from NHA directly, thank you. All right, so I know we're coming up on time. I think we might, Susan, skip the Kahoot game today. I just want to make sure that we get time for Q&A. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can skip the Kahoot game. You are still eligible to win the gift card just by completing the survey that we're going to send out. So we'll skip Kahoot, but complete that survey, give us feedback on the webinar, and you will be eligible for a drawing for the $50 gift card.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So remember, that's a different thing than the course form that's coming out. That's a different resource that will put you in the running for a $500 gift card. But today's survey from the webinar, anyone who fills that out as of this point, it will be sent out to you as soon as we're done with the webinar. But if you can't stick around through the Q&A, that's okay. Go ahead and fill that out as soon as you can, and you'll be in the running for that $50 gift card. So we were going to play Kahoot, but I think we're going to go ahead and skip that, if that's all right, and go directly to any questions that are out there. There was a huge amount of information, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. What have been kind of the most consistent questions that we've seen coming into the chat or Q&A?
Hey, Laura, there were a couple questions about provisional certification. So if you don't mind, I'm going to give some clarifying points.
Go for it.
This is Jen. I am a certification specialist for career and technical education programs with NHA. I see a lot of familiar names, so good to see you guys. One of the questions was about pharmacy technician. So pharmacy technician certification exams are not eligible for provisional certification. The earliest those students can test is 60 days before graduation. So that is still only available to seniors. Another common question about that is how to get those certifications, not Pharm Tech, the other 7, how to get those promoted from that provisional certification to the full 2-year credential. And there are 2 ways to do that. Students can send their diplomas into NHA as proof of graduation, and we will update those and update their credentials and their expiration dates. Or there is also a attestation form that your administration can send in. Thank you, Laura, for showing that. It's in the Help Center. If you click on Forms, This high school graduation affidavit will allow you to send in all of your students that have graduated and upgrade all of their certifications at the same time.
Great. Thank you. I kind of figured that would be a big question. So I had that primed up, ready to go. What other questions do we have around any of the content from today?
Hi, Laura, this is Tara. So just a couple of questions around, is this webinar being recorded? And also, what is that instructor form, excuse me. Exactly, what is that and when they will be receiving that?
Great question. So yes, we are recording. The recording will go live. I don't know if you can see here still on my screen, but we have this resource center. It's where we post any of our webinars. You can go back in and view any post webinars. Anyone who registered for today is going to get a follow-up email with some additional resources in it that will hopefully include that link to this recording, but it will go live here as well. And then that form is something that is coming. It's one of those it's almost here along with the updates to our website. Basically, what we want to do is understand more about when and where you need different things. We have tons of resources, but in my trainings with educators across the country, I talk a lot about kind of how our website right now is a little bit like IKEA, right? There's lots of great stuff in there, but man, if I just need candles, I don't even know where to go. Where do I start? So we want to start showing you candles when you need candles. And that's kind of what this form is for. So you'll be receiving that through an email blast. We'll be getting more information to you. Fill that out. And that's where you could get your name once we get that submission back into the running for that much bigger gift card. Big win, but it's coming. You haven't seen it yet. It's a brand new thing from NHA that we're looking to do to help bring you content when you need it. So great question there. Hopefully that answered that for you. I see there's been some questions on the billing and coding updates as well. We did recently, if we go again into that resource center, do a webinar on those changes, on what's coming. It's launching at the end of September. There's lots of great tools coming along with that launch. We are very excited about it, but you should be able to go in and see all of our webinars here. We'll make sure that that billing and coding webinar is something that you can have access to, but it is changing. The test plan, the crosswalk, all of those pieces are readily available on our website as well. So if you do have more questions, I would go in here and go to the billing and coding section and see what else you need. But we can follow up with you directly if you have additional questions. What other questions are out there? Anybody else notice anything regular that we haven't addressed yet as we close up here on time?
Laura, there is a question in the chat about how students can sign up and take the certification exam if they're not affiliated with a school approved for NHA testing.
That's a great question. That's an eligibility question, it sounds like. So NHA has two different pathways for eligibility, and you'll find more of that. Here's a link to the candidate handbook we were talking about earlier. This is the source of all truth, if you will, for processes, policies, and expectations. But eligibility for the exam comes in one of two main pathways. Either successfully completing an academic program that is recognized, right, which is what we're talking about here, or work experience. You have to have completed a full year of work in the role within the last 3 years to be eligible to test. We do audit candidates at random to make sure they can provide documentation on that, but they can log in, register as an individual candidate, and test. If you think about a legacy medical assistant who's been working for 20 years, never got certified, well, that individual could go out on the website, become an individual candidate, study on their own, and earn that certification if her employer or he or she's them employer was requiring them to do so. So there's two pathways for eligibility. Did that answer the question, Jen?
I think so. If your school is not currently affiliated with NHA, if we're not set up as testing partners, definitely go on to our webpage and fill out the contact me form, and one of the CTE certification specialists can reach out to you and help you get that set up so that your students will be eligible for testing.
Yes. So I see some questions on the CMAA changes. We are currently going through the job task analysis for both the medical assisting and administrative assisting. These are two different certifications. We are currently reviewing those right now, doing research around the country, subject matter experts, our governing boards, industry experts, people in real time, doing all that data collection to review both of those exams coming in next year. We do not have a timeline on that yet. As soon as that test plan is created, it will be out on the test plans area. So billing and coding, for example, the new test plan has been available to download since this last October, and we're just now launching it. So it is something that we will make available as soon as possible, but it is something that is being reviewed. No timelines on that just yet, but it should be coming sometime next year if our calendar is correct. If you're looking, so there's questions here on the CCMA update. No, so when we update, this addresses both billing and coding as well. When we update an exam, so let's say for the billing and coding, anyone who has received the NHA exam readiness content in the last year who is not yet tested for that exam will automatically receive the updated content in the digital format if they were given it to them digital. So don't hesitate, study now, right? A lot of that just depends on when those dates occur. Generally speaking, we don't like to update an exam in the middle of an academic cycle. It's not uncommon to happen in the middle of the summer or early in an academic year. So there's plenty of time for that content to go out. So don't hesitate. If you need it, if you have students studying, get what you can now. Our timelines are not set in stone. So if waiting, we'll just put off. I don't know if that would be in anybody's best interest. Okay, what other, I know there's some really specific questions out here about your individual programs. So if you want someone to follow up with you directly, post your name in the Q&A and we'll make sure that that gets captured because we do want to make sure that you get all of your questions answered around specific certifications and specific program needs. Susan, was there anything we wanted to do before we wrapped up? We're right on that hour. We want to respect everybody's time today.
Yeah, no, I think we're good. We definitely will follow up with any of those individual questions. Laura, thank you so much for a great presentation. Please do complete that webinar survey. We want to enter you in that drawing, but even more importantly for us, we want to get your feedback and hear how we can do better, provide more information or additional information you may be looking for. Not that Laura didn't do fabulous, but we would love to have feedback. So thank you all for joining. We appreciate your time. We appreciate all that you are doing to help your students, and let us know how we can help you. We're happy to follow up.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, have a great day. Stay safe out there. Good luck. Thank you.